What's going on, man? It's your boy Butler, man. It's the best day of my life. Stay out of prison. So this is gonna be centered around the overdoses that are taking place in prison, cause it's a vicious cycle, and it's contributing to a lot of unalivings that people are not really either addressing or willing to deal with based on the economic advancement that the drugs put certain people in. When I say certain people, I mean inmates as well as officers. In the Georgia Department of Corrections, there has been documented cases where staff, wardens, kitchen workers have been accused and arrested and apprehended for the utilization of unlawfulness by way of drug, I ain't gonna say trafficking. But I think that we gotta take a closer look at this cycle, because it is tearing away at not just the thread of the Georgia Department of Corrections, but society, at least the state of Georgia. Check this out. So at some point in time, I did time. It's 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. When I tell you the amount of drugs that I saw the entire time, you could fit it in the palm of your hand. I never saw a cell phone. I never spoke on a cell phone. And I'm not on some, oh, you couldn't have done time when I did time. No, what I'm saying is that I was sentenced to a decade for armed robbery. I did most of my time at Alto State Prison. But there was enough security. There was enough lawfulness. There was enough ethics and discipline within staff where I was not allowed to utilize some of the things that people who are free are able to utilize. One of those being drugs, one of those being cell phones, one of those being just unnecessary distractions, thus allowing me to focus more on reading and writing and my faith. And so now when we have a situation like we have today where people are overdosing on drugs inside the prison, and now what I'm finding is that, like, upon research, and so I don't know if they're just doing it because the cause of death is inconclusive, but instead of documenting a lot of deaths as overdoses, they're documenting them as suicides. I think what that does is it takes away from the ability for the family of loved ones to sue. I'm not absolutely sure, but I'm also aware that drugs have taken over. Drugs have taken over the Georgia Department of Corrections, and it's causing individuals to compromise both their freedom, their code of ethics, and their livelihood. When this takes place, then it's a sure equation for destruction. And I'll tell you why I say that. I say that because in history, drugs have historically destroyed the black community. When we start, I'm just starting at the Black Panther Party. When we talk about Huey P. Newton, of course, COINTELPRO did their thing in reference to, effectively bringing down the Black Panther Party. But just to put the nail in the coffin, they introduced drugs into it. So then I started thinking about our communities prior to all these drugs coming into that infrastructure. We were people to be dealt with. But when drugs came in, it caused the crack epidemic, the heroin epidemic. It destroyed our households. This has been a weapon. this has been a weapon. These drugs came in and they flatlined. Now, when drugs initially came into these United States, what that did was it caused politicians to go into a place of restructuring legislation so that a population of brown and black people were more heavily affected by that. You could have cocaine and you can have crack, and they could be both equal in size, but because the cocaine was primarily used by whites, then crack having the same or lesser amount was more effectively penalized. So now, then they introduced this legislation that comes along and introduces mandatory minimums. It also the 3 strikes, and it just kills households. I say that because I lived in a household where a parent was on drugs, and for a certain part of my life, it caused us to move from hotel to hotel while still trying to go to school and not smell like Newports. So then now I'm looking at, they got new drugs. They got these strips. They have meth. I'm assuming meth was already in existence, but it is cheap to make and the effects are overlasting. Example, I have a homeboy who I was locked up with back 20 years ago, and he finally made it to a halfway house, but he went from looking strong to looking weak. He looked dead. He looked disoriented, and made it to the halfway house after had to been about 30 years. But now he was hooked on the strips. And let's say that the halfway house didn't catch him on the strips. Let's say they didn't catch him on the strips and he made it home. What you've allowed to come to the street is a certified junkie. And whenever that's a man, you bringing the cancer back home, man. I'm talking about this topic because I recently ran into somebody I used to interact with when we were teenagers. We snorted cocaine together. I tried cocaine at 19 and I stopped it at 19. And I'm thankful that it was not appealing to me. But some of the people I interacted with, it was appealing to them. And I don't know if chain gang saved me or put me in a place reserve or preserve me. But what I just found out is that when we was snorting as teenagers, they didn't go to prison. Some of them did. Many of them didn't. And some of them was still doing drugs the entire time. And now that experimentation has developed into a full-blown habit. Unfortunately, in the Georgia Department of Corrections, or when we're dealing with a lot of these people, some of them are drawn to extreme urges of violence. Some of them are not effectively addressed. You giving a person time in prison and they're not even mentally or chemically available to carry out these sentences. And then in a place where they should be able to have a timeout on the drugs are still there. The drugs are still there, and it's in abundance. And when that takes place, then that cycle is just going to continue. And the most scariest part is that there are a lot of people who go into jail and have not tried these drugs, but because they're not utilizing or not able to deal with the stress, they're taking another way out. They're trying these drugs. They're trying to cope because there's not a lot of hope. And when you do that, you end up on dope. not a laughing matter. But then now you creating zombies. You creating people that have these habits, and they coming home, and it's just gonna spread. It's just getting worse. And so I'm also talking to individuals who are incarcerated who have suffered horrifically in the cell with people who do drugs. I talked to a guy who he was selling meth, or it was calling it some cream, and he just gave his roommate some, I guess just looking out. Man, he went to sleep. His roommate, he said he woke up, his roommate was stabbing him. His roommate was stabbing him, and he poked his eye out. And while I was doing the interview, I'm gonna try to find that interview. While I was doing the interview with this dude, bro, I could hear him snorting cocaine. So you can get drugs like you can in the street, and it's turning those people who could possibly come to the streets, it's turning those people into animals. So with that being said, man, there's a rally going on May 8th at the Capitol in Atlanta, man. Hey man, show up, show some support, and reach out to your politicians, man. We have new governors, a governor's race, or I forget what it's called, but we're gonna have a new governor coming in office. I hadn't heard anybody address the prison epidemic yet, but I think we got to start requiring that they address those issues that are really important to us, man. I'm out, man. Y'all get in the conversation. Let me know how you feel, what you think, and like, share, subscribe.